So we're in the middle of a government shutdown, and there have already been consequences. We're going to talk about a few of those today. The first one being over 15 government websites were pulled down. They're offline. If you try to go there right now, you're not going to be able to. Instead, it shows a message that says lack of funds, website unavailable. These are government IG websites, Inspector General, the Office of Inspector General. These are watchdogs of agencies. Their primary mission is to detect fraud, waste, and abuse. Does that sound familiar? That is allegedly the Trump administration's focus: fraud, waste, and abuse. But they can't do it. It's pulled down. You would think that this is connected to the shutdown, but you would be wrong. It's not. They don't need the money. They have the money. They don't rely upon annual appropriations. They have the money to operate. Instead, the reason they were pulled down, it's an OMB policy decision. The OMB said IGs have lied to the public, and they called them corrupt, partisan. Because these websites are down, the whistleblower link is missing. There's no button. You can't click the button. So if you wanted to be a whistleblower, if you saw some fraud or abuse happening within your agency, let's say during the shutdown, because there's 3/4 of the federal workforce, they're still required to come into the office. They're essential, supposedly. So they're coming into work. So if there's fraud, you want to click the button, there's no button there. So what do? Well, some of the IGs, they decided to share phone numbers on social media. You can find it on Facebook. You can find it in some other locations. So if you're trying to report something, that's where you're going to have to go. Why, though? Why have they been pulled down? Why is there this contention with the administration and the IG office? Well, first you have to understand the IG, the Office of Inspector General, it goes contrary to Trump's leadership style. The IG finds fraud, waste, and abuse every year. It doesn't matter who the president is. It could be President Obama, President Biden, President Clinton. Doesn't matter. It could be a Republican or a Democrat. They're going to find fraud, waste, and abuse because it happens in the government all the time. Look at the reports. They're publicly available. GAO publishes them, and OIG within the agencies. They publish the reports. There is fraud. So once there's fraud, it's a little bit embarrassing. It's embarrassing for the administration because you have to admit fault. And it's embarrassing for the agency's leadership. They don't want that embarrassment. They don't want anyone coming in there telling them what they're doing wrong. So you don't want to be criticized. You don't want your name dragged through the news saying that something bad happened. So they want to control that. They also want to limit whistleblower protections. Look at what the Department of War Secretary Pete Hegseth said recently. He wants to reduce the number of complaints and get rid of repeat complainers. Now, one of the reasons why you would say is, well, there's no merit to the case. So why are you wasting time? But that's not the signal that was really sent, because he's saying overall, he just wants to reduce the number of complaints. What OIG has done for us as a country, as a government, let's say, they've saved billions of dollars over the years, and they've saved lives, veteran lives. When veterans were not receiving the appropriate amount of health care from the VA, it was a whistleblower that brought that issue to national attention. Without that whistleblower and the protections that go with it, more veterans would have died. And this isn't anything new because during Trump's first term, he fired like 20 IGs because he disagreed with them. Now, okay, let's go ahead and transition into the federal job cuts because that's what's being emphasized right now. That's what's being doubled down. There was a threat President Trump took to Truth Social, his favorite social media platform, and he basically said he met with Russ Vought, the OMB director of Project 2025 fame. Now, this is a rare moment because we haven't seen President Trump openly embrace or emphasize Project 2025. In fact, it's to the contrary. He's been pushing himself away from that agenda, despite who he has appointed in his cabinet. He's been pushing himself away. So this is one of the rare times you actually see him embracing it. So then he talks about he had a discussion to identify which Democratic agencies to cut, talking about federal agencies. But you and I both know there are no partisan agencies. Agencies, by design, are supposed to be nonpartisan. Now, you can look at an agency like EPA. Yeah, they probably lean more to the left. The left embraces the mission of protecting the environment. You can look at, let's say, HUD, housing. That's an agency that enables FHA loans. There are people all across the country that are Democrat and Republican and that are conservatives that have applied and qualified for an FHA loan so they could buy their first house, and they're homeowners right now. So that agency is for whatever political ideology you happen to hold, they're still going to benefit you. And the same could be said about the Department of Labor, with unions, with workers' rights. It doesn't matter if you're, right side, left side, it doesn't matter where you sit on the political spectrum. You need assistance from those agencies. So when you say cut Democratic agencies, the only thing I can think of is you're just looking at maybe EPA and the Education Department. Are those the Democratic agencies? The whole thing doesn't make that much sense to me. Then he says, I cannot believe the Democrats are giving me this opportunity to make these cuts. And maybe it's because the Democrats want to make America great again. This is yet another attempt in trying to paint the Democrats against their base. So the Democrats let the government shut down because maybe they don't care about federal jobs. That's the message that we're hearing from the administration. Maybe the Democrats don't care about these getting cut. So they're essentially trying to turn the base of the Democrats against them. But the big layoff message is supposed to happen tomorrow. It's supposed to happen on Friday. That's what we've heard from the White House. We did see the USPTO already announce layoffs. This is during the government shutdown. And as far as I'm aware, this is the only agency that has actually publicly announced layoffs after the government shutdown. It's a 1% cut. They're getting rid of their Denver office. And it's not performance-based, it's mission-based. Basically saying that it has nothing to do with anybody's performance. The mission has changed. They're shutting an office down. They're going to have to make cuts. Me personally, I love the USPTO. I thought USPTO, best agency to work for, especially in their headquarters building in Old Town Alexandria, Virginia. It's a beautiful building. They have a good culture. Everyone I talk to over there, they love it. Denver office, I don't know too much about it, but I have nothing but good things to say about the USPTO. Hopefully they don't have to endure too many more cuts. There's also lawsuits that have begun. Lawsuits have been filed trying to block, shut down reduction in forces. So any reduction in force, any rift that occurs because of the shutdown, they're trying to have a legal battle here. They're pointing to the fact that President Trump has contempt towards the federal workforce, and also to the fact that a third of the federal workforce happen to be military veterans. But with all legal action, especially this one right here, it's going to take, the quickest you're going to hear anything probably will be 3 to 6 months. It takes a long time, and it'll be years before a final verdict is reached. Now, we've also seen recently federal employees had their leave pulled. So envision this with me. You submit your leave paperwork, it gets approved. So you go out there, you rush, you buy some tickets. Maybe you're on kayak.com or Flight Scanner. Pick a website, you buy your tickets, and you're all set. You pack your bags, you tell your family, you're doing the coordination. And then, all of a sudden, you're told you're not going anywhere because the government shut down, one, and oh, by the way, you're essential. So what does that mean? That means you lost out on money. Because not every airline or website is going to allow you to cancel your flight with short notice and you're going to get a full refund. You might get a partial, but depending on how you booked it, you might not get anything. And there's nothing to be done. There's no one that's going to help you. You could have lost, over $1,000 easy. And you have over 1,000 employees throughout the federal government that are in that exact situation. They never thought that once they had their approval to go on leave, that it would get pulled. But it's getting pulled. But I still do not believe the federal workforce will have to endure mass reduction in forces. Not the type that they're talking about over there at the White House and the Trump administration. I don't think it'll be like over 100,000 or even tens of thousands. And it's for a clear reason. It's not legal. If you want to dive deeper into that topic and have a full understanding on what is probably going to prevent the Trump administration from doing mass layoffs. If you're interested in that, I want you to check this video out next. Stay updated by signing up to the free newsletter down below. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.